Hello, my name's Christopher, and today I'm going to show you how to install Docker on an LXC container in Proxmox. So a little bit about this series, I'm going over home labs or installing things, getting things set up, everything like that. So if you're interested in that, subscribe, comment, like, and support the channel, and let's get started. So a little bit about Docker is it's the industry leading container runtime. It powers millions of applications worldwide. It makes it to where you can package up just about anything from Ruby on Rails to PHP to Python. There's all different kinds of things that you can do with it. And it just makes it to where you can easily start up a system and self-host it without having to dive into the programming side or anything like that. So the Docker API, and then the Docker CLI, and then it's the Docker engine that runs everything, the distribution, the orchestration, the volumes that hold the data, and then the containered runtime, and then Docker build code, and then the networking behind of it, and then all the plugins. It runs on CentOS, Debian, Fedora, Rail, Ubuntu, Windows servers, and it uses the kernel on your host. It does not start up its own kernel or anything like that, like a VM does. And the freedom of choice, security, the key features, and compatibility, powered by Containered, built on the leading open source container runtime. It's a graduated project from the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, and if you want to get into more advanced things like Kubernetes, that's really fun too. You can download the Docker engine, and you can download the Docker desktop for your computer as well. So we're going to get to installing this on a Proxmox LXC. So now we will be using Proxmox via helper scripts. There will be a link down in the YouTube description to get to it. And I'm going to go up to the search box right here. I'm going to type in a Docker, and then Docker LXC right here. And then we're going to copy this one right here. And before we go install that in our Proxmox, I'm going to go to View on GitHub. And then I'm going to go to Install. I'm going to go up there to Go to File. I'm going to type in Docker. And then I'm going to go to CT one first. And it sets default settings. And then when you run this script inside of an LXC, it will update with apt-get and upgrade. And then start and build container description. We're going to go back over to search box here. We're going to go to Docker install. So it's going to set up the container. It's going to install some dependencies, curl, sudo, mc. He set a function right here to get the Docker latest, the Portainer latest, the Portainer agent, and the Docker compose. So now it's going to install Docker. It's going to make the directory, and it's going to ask if you want to set up Fuse Overlay FS. It's going to say it installed Docker. And then now it's going to ask, would you like to add Portainer? If you say yes, it's going to say installing Portainer. And if you say no, it's going to install a Portainer agent. If you want to install the Portainer agent right here, it's going to ask right here. And then if you do, it's going to run the if. So it's going to ask the Portainer first, and then the else. It's going to come down here, and it's going to ask the read here. It's going to ask the user here, and then it's going to, if this is true, then it's going to install the Portainer agent right here. So if this is not true, it's going to go down here. It's going to ask if you'd like to install Docker Compose. And then if true, if the user said yes, it's going to come down here in the if statement and install Docker Compose. So now it's going to do SSH, customize, and then it's going to apt-get auto remove and apt-get auto clean and clean up and get everything cleaned up and your Docker set up. So that's a little bit about how the install works. So just a quick break from learning. I want to let you know about the Big Bear Club, and you can join it and support this channel. And if you get anything out of the tutorials, please look at joining it. You can get a link to join it down in the YouTube description. So let's get back to the registered code programming. So now I'm on my Proxmox. I'm going to go over to my node and then shell, and then I'm going to be inside of the terminal here. And I'm going to paste in the command that we copied over in Proxmox helper scripts. And then I'm going to return or enter. And then it will say this will create a new Docker LXC proceed. I'm going to say return or enter for yes. I'm going to say yes. And then I'm not going to do default settings. I'm going to go to advanced. And then I'm going to make the selection with the space bar. So I'm going to say return or enter. It's going to have Debian 12 as default. I'm going to say return or enter. I'm going to go down to Ubuntu, but you can use Debian. And then I'm going to do Jamie. And then how you do this is you press the space bar to select here. And I'm going to say I'm privileged and press return or enter. And then you can put a root password in for the SSH. I'm going to say return. You can put a container ID that's not being used over here, so make sure it's not being used. And I'm going to do 906. And then you can name the container. So I'm going to name it Docker YT for Docker YouTube. And then I'm going to say return or enter. You can give it a disk size, so 4 gigabytes is being allocated right now, but I'm going to make it 20 gigabytes. And then you can allocate more CPU cores. Right now it's defaulted to 2, so I'm going to say return or enter. You can allocate more RAM to it, so you can go over here and allocate 3 gigabytes of RAM. So I'm going to return or enter. You can set up the bridge, a static IP. And then if you want to disable IPv6 or not, I'm going to say no. You can set the MTU size here or leave blank for default. I'm going to leave blank. You can leave this blank. This is the DNS search domain. And then the DNS server IP, you can leave blank for the host. And then you can set a MAC address, but I'm going to leave blank. You can set a VLAN. I'm going to leave blank. You can enable Fuse Overlay FS if you want to. I'm going to say no. And then now enable verbose mode. Like if this script has errors and you don't know what's happening, you can go over here and go over with the arrows to the left and hit the return or enter. And then you'll turn on verbose mode to actually give you more input on exactly what the error is doing and how to maybe solve it. So I'm going to say no for now. And then now it's going to say ready to create Docker LXC. I'm going to say yes, return or enter. And then now it's going to go there. It's going to validate the storage. It's going to set up the storage. It's going to update the LXC template list. It's going to create the LXC container. You can see it's creating over here 906. You can see it started the LXC container, setting up the container operating system. It allocated an IP off of the DHP server. It said internet was connected because it tested that. It said the DNS resolved the github.com to this IP right here. So it checked the DNS resolution and made sure the DNS server was working. And so now it's updating the container operating system now. This could take a bit. Okay, now it's installing the dependencies. And this should look familiar because when I explain the script, You should see the steps that I've explained in here. So now it's installing Docker version 24.0.6. You could have a newer version by the time you look at this video. Okay, now it's gonna say what would you like to add Portainer. You can if you'd like. So I'm going to say yes, just add it. It's gonna say installing Portainer 2.19.1. You could have a newer version by the time you look at this video. So then now, would you like to add Docker Compose? And I'm gonna say yes to this with a Y. It's going to customize the container, cleaned up, and completed successfully. So now we have a working Docker LXC running on 906 over here. So if you go in here, you can say Docker PS, and you can see that one container is now running, and that is Portainer. So later down the time, when new updates come out, you need to update your apt-get so you keep the server updated. So let's go into our LXC container, and then we're going to go into console, and then I'm going to paste in the same command that I installed the Docker LXC container with. So I'm going to run it by return or enter. Support/update functions for Docker LXC proceed. I'm going to say yes. Now it's updating the Docker LXC. It's updated. So that lets us know that we're keeping up with security updates and things like that. So that's how to update your container. So I just went step by step on getting Docker installed in a Proxmox LXC. So if you like this tutorial, subscribe, comment, like, and support the channel. And if you have any video suggestions or need support, you can go out in the Big Bear community and join our Discord. There's a link in the YouTube description. So stay tuned for more.